All right. Well, this is a test, and we're going to see what we can come up with today. I'm hoping that what we're doing here just gives everybody an opportunity to talk about the greatness of God in the land of the living. And you know what? Well, I just want to stop in and say, listen, one of the first things you want to look at here, and I'll pull out, and we'll make sure we can make sense of it all. Is that we're going to talk about this thing called BlueLetterBible.com. I would dare say it's probably one of the best things that you'd want to get. BlueLetterBible.com. It is probably one of the best resources, and I even say donate to them. But let's do this. We're trying to get in a little bit on Jeremiah 30th chapter. It talks specifically about people who at one point in time were in captivity, Israelites more specifically, and notably, many times that they ended up in captivity was because they failed to actually continue to recognize God and the benefits of just being His child. Right? Sometimes we become complacent. Sometimes the blessings overtake us to the point where we forget just where the blessings come from. And if we're not wise, we may be foolish and become foolish in thinking that the blessings come simply because of the work we've done by our own hands. I believe in Deuteronomy, the 8th chapter, God begins to tell them. Matter of fact, let's just go there. I think that's a good place to go. So I'll tell you what, I'll include you in my study time. Let's look at this. It says, every commandment which I command you this day, you must be careful to observe, that you may live and multiply. So here's the thing. Let's focus on that you may live and multiply. It did not say live and decrease. It did not say live and subtract. It did not say live and maybe you'll make it. It says live and multiply. I think it's key to know that there is a desire from God that His children would live and multiply, and go and possess the land which the Lord swore unto your father. So there is a promise in this. So you're not just living just because, but there is a legacy in it, right? And you shall remember. Here's a word. You shall remember the Lord your God, that led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness. Now, we can get into that, but someone once asked me, and I want to just share with you really quick. Let's go to Exodus 12 and 12. So how did they get out of Egypt? It says, I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment of the Lord. So how does God end up creating freedom or creating liberty or actually giving us an opportunity or a window of blessing? It's usually through some form of judgment, because God is a righteous God. So because God is a righteous God, He works through judgment, and in many instances He judges unrighteousness, so that in judging unrighteousness the people are set free. So they're freed from Egypt, and now we find out that they've been in the wilderness for 40 years, really because the people were not right with God. That when God said, hey, go in and go take the land, that even though there were giants in the land, when God said go do that, what did they say? Oh no, we can't do that. Okay, so you're not right. You're not aligned with the mindset of God. You're not in line. So God is saying, listen, I'm giving you this land, but what you're saying is that it's too huge of a task for us to do. Oh, but God is saying, hold on. I've showed you time and time again in Egypt that I've judged 10 gods that you were familiar with, and shown myself to be stronger than all of them. Right, over and over again, I've shown myself to be stronger than all of them. Matter of fact, let me cut to, I hope I kept it up. Let me see if I kept it up. Nope, that's not it. Oop, I apologize. We're going to get right to it. Don't worry about it. You'll be all right where we're going. All right, here we go. Boom, we're going to do this. Let's just use ChatGPT real quick. What were the gods of ancient Egypt? So these are all the gods of ancient Egypt. And in many instances, if I would have asked the same question, let's do this. Oh God. Oh, hey, okay, don't be offended. Okay, it should be a little uppercase G. I know some of y'all. Yeah. So here's what we'll do. The God's judged by God in the thing, and it goes through. It says Ra, the sun god, who challenged the plagues of darkness. Osiris, the god of fertility and afterlife. Happy, the god of the Nile, natural, the annual flood, targeted by. So God's showing, hey, I'm above all of these, right? I can do it when I want it, how I want it, everything I want it. And Set, the god of chaos and storms, is challenged by the plague of gnats. Look, God is just showing himself up, right? He's showing off that I can do these things and I can move mountains when I want to move mountains, and I'm capable of all this and so much more. So when he judged them, let's go back to Exodus 12 chapter again. Just to show you here, it says, and I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. So, the last one, or the last god, at least in many instances, Pharaoh was thought to be a god. The fact that Pharaoh could not govern his own house would be a problem, right? That would definitely be an issue, that Pharaoh could not protect his own house, and God would judge it and judge his house again. I think I'm coming in a little hot here. Let me see if I can turn this down, and might need to adjust your sound at some point in time. Let's do that. There we go. I think I'm a little bit better now. But listen, so here's what we do know. We have the opportunity to gain more knowledge about how God does things, right, and how he works. I think my thought here is that if you don't know that God is capable, then you should begin to realize that God has a way of actually executing judgment against those things that have held you captive. And in doing so, right, you're set free. The question is, will you run back to it? If God has shown you a different way and different mindset, will you run back to it? Will you go do the same thing you used to do? I think Scripture and New Testament says, who has bewitched you, that you would be fooled again, that you would be brought back into the same level of captivity, right? You don't want to be back in the same level of captivity. And here we find ourselves in Jeremiah 30th chapter. Why? Because guess what? The children of Israel are back in captivity. They're in captivity because they've forgotten that God is the one who brought them out of the land of Egypt, who brought them this far, who's made so many wonderful things happen for them. You know what? I want to double down on something here. I want to take a risk, and I want to show you something. Let's go ahead. This is probably one of my favorite verses. It says, I call heaven and earth as a witness against you today. Witness against you, right? That I have set before you life and death, blessings and cursings. Therefore, what? Choose life. I mean, just in case you're confused. All right, God says, hey, choose life, that both you and your descendants may live. So there is obviously a desire from God that not only you prosper, but that your children prosper, right? And let's go. You would find this peppered throughout the chapter of throughout the book of Deuteronomy. And again, this is a book of remembrance, right? So this is, this is a generation that Moses is talking to, right? Now Moses is talking to a generation of people, right, that have were born in the wilderness. All right, they weren't necessarily born in Egypt unless they were 20 or 19 years and younger. If they're 19 years and younger, then they would have been born in Egypt. But those that have been around for the last 40 years were born in the desert. So you have those that are coming out. The eldest of them would have been around 59. Yes, right. Because 40 plus 19 is 59. The eldest of them would have been around 59, with the exception of Joshua and Caleb, right? With the exception of Joshua and Caleb. Why is that? Okay, well, I was about to show you something, but yeah, I like the way this is going. Let's go to Numbers. Numbers is better. Let's go to Numbers, the 13th chapter. Numbers 13th chapter. So listen, this is Numbers 13th chapter. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel. From each tribe of their fathers you shall send a man, every one a leader among them. So they're choosing them, right? Reuben, Simeon, Judah, Issachar, and from Judah they choose Caleb, son of Jephunneh. Jephunneh, I like that name, son of Jephunneh, right? And you keep going, and we know specifically the names of the men whom Moses spied out the land, and Moses called Osei, depending on which version uses, son of Nun, Joshua. He called him, so he says, "Hey, let's go." Some would say that Joshua, at some point in time, was already being slated, being set up to be Moses' right-hand man, right? To be his chief of staff, to be there for him. Moses sent them out to spy out the land of Canaan. Right, so and go up to this way to the south and go out to the mountains. So they went out there. So they went to the land and the wilderness was in. And as they continued, you'll see, you continue to go down here. It says, but the men who had gone up with him, let's go back a little bit. It says, nevertheless, the people who dwell in the land are strong. Okay, so they started, and everybody probably knows this story, right? Now they departed back, and Moses and Aaron and the congregation of children in the wilderness of Paran and Kadesh. They brought back word to them, to all the congregation, showed them the fruit of the land. So they brought back good fruit. Now, how long were they there? They returned from spying out the land how many days? 40 days. They stayed there for 40 days. That's a little while to be spying out some land. I'm just going to say, you played a spy for about 40 days. You probably did a good job. You should have been James Bond. But anyway, they spent 40 days. But here's the thing. The people of them that came back, 10 of them anyway, says, hey, nevertheless the people who dwell in the land are strong. The cities are fortified, very large. Moreover, we saw the descendants of Anak there. Who was the descendants of Anak? They're giants, right? Anak. And depending on you keep reading the Old Testament scriptures, there are multiple names for these particular giants that roam the land. And the Amalekites dwell in the land of the south. Hittites and the Jebusites, Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell in the sea and along the banks of Jordan. This is the land. This is the land of Israel. The land of Israel that you're familiar with even today. Same land, same area, right? And Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and take possession, for we are well able to overcome it. Now, Caleb has courage. Caleb has courage. Caleb says, hey, no, this is ours. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I have no idea what you're saying, except for the simple fact that you guys are missing the boat here, right? We can take this. We can win this war. We can take what's rightfully ours. But the men who'd gone up with him said, no, I don't know what you're thinking. We cannot do this. They are stronger than we are, wiser, whatever, and they're going to take us out. Listen, I mean, if God told us to do it, that's what we ought to be doing. It's the question in your mind of whether or not fear is going to speak louder than promise. Right? The question, will fear in your life speak louder than promise? That is our problem sometimes. We allow fear to speak louder than the promise, and it quiets the promise, and we live with fear. We live with the results of fear, because truthfully, whatever you align your mind to, align your mind with, will become evident in your life. It is just that. Whatever you choose to align your mind with, it's an old saying, it says, if you believe you can, you're right. If you believe you can't, you're right. Because you will prove positive that which you believe is that which is what you shall become. You can't run away from it. Now, there are certain things in life that will stop you, right? Will keep you from becoming something that you shouldn't be. But we're not going to go over those right now, because many of them are very, what's the word I want to use? Can be very dramatic or very restrictive in nature, right? And there are controls that may be put in place in your life by other people who, like, especially, a good example. If you're kept inside of a house for over a year, it's very difficult for you to, and you're kept from, like, I don't know, all outside forces. You don't get news, you don't get anything, and you spend a year in captivity. It is very difficult for you to be relevant when you come out of captivity, right? You just can't formulate an idea or concept of the various things that have changed. I think right now AI is becoming big. It's been around for 5 years, but it's just becoming big now with open chat OpenAI and ChatGPT and many other things, right? It's just becoming larger because it's becoming more progressive and even almost ubiquitous, if you will, when it comes to it. But anyway, but imagine if you disappeared for a year right now and you came back, everything that would have transpired in the field of AI, you would have been like, wow, what just happened, right? The idea here is that you have to be real. You have to realize that once you start going into various areas of where there's a struggle or whatever, that your ability to overcome the struggle really rests heavily upon what you know, what you will choose to put your trust in. Now, if you will not put your trust in God, but put your trust in fear, then you will align yourself with the fear, and you will get the product of that fear, and you will multiply in fear, right? But if you align yourself with God, and you align yourself through faith in God, then you will get the product, right, or produce, right? Hence the word produce. That's where we get the word produce, like the produce section of fruit. Hence the word produce, where we get the product of produce from. It's because we've allowed the seed to take root and it to produce something in our lives. So here we go. Numbers 13:31. It's like a mirror. It's a mirror, right? It's a reverse of what it should be. But the men who had gone up with him said, by the way, that's how I remember scriptures. But the men who had gone up with him said, we're not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. It's the reverse of who you should be, right? 13:31. Numbers 13. It's the reverse of who you should be. You're saying the wrong thing. You're saying the reverse of what you should be saying. You should say what 13:30 says. Let us go up at once and take possession, for we're well able to overcome it. That's faith. Fear says, we can't do that. Everything's long. Guess what? That's the point of faith. Faith says, okay, yeah, I see it's a problem, but that doesn't mean there isn't a solution. Oh, I know what it is. God. God is the solution. He is our solution. He is our help. He is our strength. Before I go on, He is our everything. Right? And they gave the children of Israel a bad report, and the land which they had spied out. The land through which they had gone, the spies. I don't even want to repeat whatever else they had to say. I mean, it's there for you. Just remember this part. 13:25. And they returned from spying out the land. How long? 40 days. 40 days. So listen, after 40 days, this is how crazy it gets in the 14th chapter. It says, why has the Lord brought us out to this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should become victims? Would it not better for us to return to Egypt? Let me get this straight. You wanted to get out of Egypt. Now you're out of Egypt. And God has done some miraculous things for you. You've forgotten the miraculous things that God did in order to get you out of Egypt while you're in the wilderness, how He's providing for you. You're forgetting that too. And not only that, it's like you want to go charter a bus to go back to Egypt. So they said, let us elect a leader to return to Egypt. So you're going to say, see you, Moses. You can stay out here by yourself. We're about to go back. Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before the assembly congregation of children of Israel. But Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had spied out the land, tore their clothes. Now, I just finished reading up on the tore the clothes piece. It's like it's an outward expression of how you feel inside. It's like you're so angry about what's happening, right? This is an outward expression of, I feel all ripped up. I feel torn inside because we're at an impasse here. I am so angry that I'm going to... Now, here's the thing. It's not like they had a J.C. Penney's or even a Tumu, right? They didn't have any of that to just go get some clothes. So that's pretty dramatic to tear your clothes. You can't just go get some more clothes off the rack. Anyway, and they spoke to all the congregation of Israel, saying, the land we passed through to spy out is an exceedingly good land. Look, I'm trying to make my case again. And if the Lord delights in us, then He will bring us into the land and give it to us. I'm here. A land which flows with what? Milk and honey. Here's where you heard that term, milk and honey. Only do not, what? Rebel against the Lord. That's what I was talking about, alignment. When you're rebelling against the Lord, you're not in alignment, which means you're not righteous, because God is righteous. Righteousness bears fruit, right? Unrighteousness does as well. The difference is, what kind of fruit do you want to eat? That's the question. For the fear of the land, well, unrighteousness may manifest itself at first. It seems to be best for you, right? But it withers away. It's like a weed. It seems to produce great fruit, but then it withers away. It doesn't taste right. Anyway, nor fear for the people of the land, for they are our bread. Their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. I think that's a real good part. And the Lord is with us. Do not fear them. That's a statement all by itself, right? I don't even. This is crazy. And all the congregation said to stone them with stones. So let me get this straight. The people who are on God's side, they want to. You want to stone the people who are on God's side. Something's wrong. I'm just saying. Now the glory. Here's a cool part. I really like this part. And after I read it a couple of times, I've read this story, but this just appeared. It's like one of those things where your eyes just open, right? It says, now the glory of the Lord appeared in the tabernacle of the meetings before the children of Israel. So before they're about to stone them, God says, hold on, well, let me go rescue my boys. I think I'm going to show up. I like that. I really do. I surely do. Love it when God just shows up to rescue his people, especially those who choose to stand with him. Right? Anyway, verse 14:11. Then the Lord said to Moses, how long will these people reject me? How long will they not believe me? With all the signs which I have performed among them. He goes forth to say, look, Moses, I tell you what, how about I just knock them out and we start all over? We start with you. Moses said, then the Egyptians will hear it. For by your might you brought these people up from among them, and they will tell the inhabitants of the land, they have heard that you, Lord, are among these people, that you, Lord, are seen face to face, and your cloud stands above them, and you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Now if you kill these people as one man, then the nations which have heard of your fame will speak, saying, because the Lord was not able to bring these people out of the land which he swore to give them, therefore he killed them in the wilderness. Now this is intercession. This is good intercession. I've heard people say, well, God is testing Moses' heart to see where he was, if he was really going to be a pastor, a shepherd, and if you will, a true shepherd or a hireling, someone who's just hired to do the job. Right? That's a good test of your mettle, your integrity, your character, to see if you're willing to stand in the place for people who you know. I mean, if you read the top, they were about to throw Moses throw him off the bus. Now, they won't go run him over. They will throw him off the bus, leave him in the wilderness, and go back to Egypt by themselves. Now, I'm just saying, from a leader's perspective, you have to really give Moses some pats on the back here. These people, wow, right? We're not talking days have passed. It appears to be within the same day. And Moses is interceding for the people. The Lord is long-suffering, verse 18, and abundant in mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression. But he by no means clears the guilty, visiting iniquity on the fathers and on the children on the third and fourth generation. Upon the iniquity of this people I pray, according to the greatness of your mercy, just as you've forgiven this people from Egypt even until now. Right? So God's been pushing out some mercy and some grace and pardoning them. Then the Lord said, I have pardoned according to your word. But here it comes. But truly as I live, all the earth shall be filled with the glory of the Lord, because all these men who've seen my glory and the signs which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness have put me to the test now these 10 times, and not heeded my voice. They certainly shall not see the land which I swear to their fathers, nor shall any of those who rejected me see it. But guess what? My servant Caleb shall, because he had a different spirit within him, and has followed me fully. I will bring into the land where he went, and his descendants shall inherit it. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Seems like God's really big on family. He's big on legacy. He is. He likes that. Now the Amalekites and Canaanites dwell in the valley. Tomorrow turn and move out to the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. Oh, there's more. He begins to tell them, hey, guess what? I'm not going to do that to you. How about this? How long shall I bear this evil congregation complain against me? I've heard the complaints which the children of Israel spake against me. Say to them, as I live, says the Lord, just as you have spoken in my hearing, so I will do to you. So those words they spoke at the top of the chapter, God's revisiting them. And he's saying, hey, okay, you had words to say. I have words to say too. The carcasses of you who have complained against me shall fall in the wilderness, and all of you who were numbered according to your entire number from 20 years old and above, except for who? Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun, because they had good words. They were aligned with God. You shall by no means enter to the land which I swore unto you to swore I would make you dwell in. It's the only people that get to make it in. Right? Caleb and Joshua. Right? But your little ones, the children, their children. See, God loves children. God loves family. Whom you said would be victims, I will bring in, and they shall know the land which you have despised. So, your children are going to get in. You may not, but your children shall. But as for you, your carcass again shall fall in the wilderness, just in case you didn't hear me the first time. And your sons shall be shepherds in the wilderness 40 years, and bear the brunt of your infidelity until your carcasses are consumed in the wilderness. According to the number of days, here we go. Remember, according to the number of days in which you spied out the land. How many? How many days were there? 40 days. James Bond type stuff. 40 days. For each of you shall for each of you shall bear your guilt 1 year, namely 40 years, and you shall know my rejection. So herein lies. Some people have wondered, why did they spend 40 years in the wilderness? It is simply because they spent 40 days searching out the land, and he gave them 1 year for each day. Kind of reminds me of this joke. I remember this joke where this lady, and she saw her husband. He was in the courtroom, and apparently he stole a can of peaches. And people said, well, how many peaches were in the can? And the prosecutor said there were 5 peaches in the can, Your Honor. Your Honor says, well, I'll give you a day in jail for every peach. His wife stood up and says, well, Your Honor, he stole a can of peas, too. That's bad, ain't it? Yeah. Anyway, so here's what we know. There is something to be taught right here, is that there is some consequences when you don't listen to what God is saying. But there are definitely consequences when you do. And good consequences, right? That what you end up, well, some would not say consequences, some would say benefit, but it is still the same. By doing what God says do and aligning your heart with the will of God, you have a greater benefit. Because I think what you'll know is that Caleb went on even at 85 years old. He had not lost a step. If you continue to go throughout the chapter of book of Numbers, you'll find that Caleb didn't lose a step when it was his turn at bat again, and he saw the giants in the land. He went full force. Some would say whole hog to go get all that was supposed to be his. So I'm saying to you today, stay encouraged, be ready. God is about to do some great things in your life, and you should know that God is already moving on your behalf. If you continue to just believe in him the more and align yourself with what God is saying, and I'll go back up there with it. If you align yourself right here, if the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into the land and give it to us. a land which flows with milk and honey. Only don't rebel, don't act against, nor fear the people of the land. Don't fear them. Okay? Why? The Lord is with us. You need not fear them. All right? Well, listen, again, I'm glad you tuned in. I'm going to break here. I'm going to tell you, stay encouraged and stay focused, because God is bringing your blessings into the picture.